I've coached as a behaviour insight advisor 93 of the Fortune 100. I made £1 million. I built a business to £1 million, and through misplaced trust and being taken advantage of, lost everything.
Jez Rose, philosopher, best-selling author, and broadcaster.
I'd been chasing money and chasing nonsense, utter nonsense. It was a very life-changing moment when you realise that you don't have to live the life the way everybody tells you. If you didn't have to lose everything, what could you do to simplify your life? We all woke up this morning, but there were a ton of people that didn't. What are you going to do with every moment to make it valuable? The secret to leadership is getting other people to want to do something better. You can't nurture statistics. You nurture people because
we are very, very honoured to have Jez Rose here with us this evening. And Jez, rather than me introduce you, because we've all read who you are and what you do, I would like you to introduce yourself, please, if that's okay. Because you do so many things. I don't want to miss out on anything.
All right. Wow. Well, I'm at a crossroads, so I always find that question very interesting now. So I'm a behaviourist by trade. So if a cab driver asks me what I do, if I'm at a wedding and somebody asks me what I do, I normally tell them I'm either a proctologist or a carpenter, because then they don't ask me any more questions and I can just enjoy the rest of the wedding. And if a cab driver asks me, I just tell them I write books and I get asked to talk about those books at conferences around the world, which does shut off quite a lot of the other things that I do. But I mean, do you want how do you want this to go tonight? How honest do you want this?
Because I have
a gory. I mean, we can go really gory, grim story,
tonight,
like
Jez.
deep. We can go finances. We can. I mean, you kind of lead and push on the bits that you want to push on. So I worked in human behaviour with businesses for a long time. So I've coached as an advisor, as a behaviour insight advisor, 93 of the Fortune 100. I've had various businesses of my own. We owned a cocktail bar in Oxford, which had some licensing challenges. So it was a smoothie bar in the day and then a cocktail bar in the evening. Don't ever get a bar. It's the first lesson of the evening. Oh, yet did you say? Yeah.
Working on it.
Oh, you're working on it. Yeah. Okay. And then I wrote the first book, and it did very well. It reached #1, and that propelled sort of my career to speak, and lots of people asked me to speak. I've been coaching. I sort of fell into that for about 12 years now. Please be quiet. And I was a critical care paramedic for 5 years. Fell into, because I did human behaviour, the more, my professor said, the more you learn about humans, the more you'll prefer animals. So, and he's right. And so then I studied animal behaviour, and I trained dogs and animals for TV and film for 7 years while doing other bits and bobs, and chased a lifestyle. And then I've just come back from America. I've been living in the States to build the business over there. And therein is the gory story. And I've been back here 4 weeks, and have taken a big fat marker pen and draw a line under all of my life, every single aspect of my life, and started again. Yeah, that's a broad introduction. Is that enough?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Thank you. I think that deserves a clap.
No, it doesn't deserve a clap.
Well, before we go deep, Jez, I keep looking at your skin and your lovely teeth. So, and you're drinking your tea. I obviously promote health and well-being and fitness. I think a lot of us business owners, we were supposed to take care of ourselves. I know I do. What do you do to look after your body? And your skin and your teeth?
So I did in lockdown. My best friend was obsessed with the whole skin regime. You know, where you have to have 19 things. You've got to do vitamin C, and then you've got to do a exfoliation, and then twice a day you've got to dip in battery acid or whatever it was. So I did that for ages, and then I thought, you know what, maybe wouldn't it just be simpler? Like years ago we didn't have this and everything was fine, so why don't you just wash your face and then moisturize it? So that's all I do. I just wash my face and moisturize it.
We have got great skin.
Cannot believe that. Well, thanks very much. I've never done one of these before. I had no idea what to expect. This is excruciating. And my teeth are my teeth. Everybody thinks I whiten them. I don't. They're a little straighter than they were because I bit down on a nut in lockdown, and the top two went forwards and the bottom two went backwards. And they were wobbly, and so I had an emergency. Is anybody here a dentist? No. So I went to an emergency appointment with a dentist, and he said, "Oh, the wobbling will stop because your gums will harden, but your bite will change." And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Or for £5,000 we could correct them." And I said, "I'll go with the less wobbly teeth." So, but after about 3 weeks, it really does change your bite, and so I had Invisalign, but they were fine before.
My daughter had Invisalign.
Yeah, well, there you go. Probably not
Yeah.
the same ones because I think they're personalised to you. But yeah, so that. Thanks.
Well,
wait, sorry. I'm so sorry. That was what I was getting to. The most important thing, and it sounds like I'm preaching, but it was life changing. I gave up sugar. I read a book called Sugar Blues. You can't buy it anymore. You have to get it on eBay. It's Martin Duffy, I think, doctor, the first 1 million copy bestseller in America. It's phenomenal. It charts the history from when humans first found sugar all the way through to when there was this entirely coincidental spike of all of the chronic health diseases increase in our consumption of sugar. So I gave up sugar, processed sugar, and I'm Buddhist, I don't drink alcohol, so I think that helps.
Well, I'm very healthy, but I have got a sweet tooth, unfortunately.
That's right, you're allowed one.
Okay, so are we ready? I think we would like to start with the foundations and personal transformation, Jez. So question number 1, are we ready? Drum roll, drum roll. So you've had a fascinating career from TV presenter to behavioural expert. What was the moment you realised you needed a change?
So I was a kids TV presenter for 8 years, BBC, ITV, and then moved into mainstream television. I moved out of TV and then I came back into it just before lockdown. So there's a TV show called Saturday Kitchen and James Martin Saturday Morning, so I did both of those for a while. I don't have... This is a really interesting question because we've touched a little bit on this because I'm at a crossroads now. There's been a massive change and maybe we'll come to that later.
Yeah, let's do that.
But prior to this, I've had quite a lot of death in my life. A lot of people have died very, some of them young, like friends at school, and just a lot of people have died that I've been very close to, which has cemented this notion that you only get one life. Like we all woke up this morning, but there were a ton of people that didn't. And when you work in medicine, it really cements that idea of just click and it's gone. And I have a real deep respect for that. It was life-changing for me because we got to do today and some people didn't, so what are you going to do with every moment to make it valuable? And and people say, I've been in this career 25 years, and I think here's an exercise for all of you to do. And if any of you are into coaching, this is a lovely exercise to do with your clients. List all of the countries that you could visit in the world on a piece of paper. On another piece of paper, list all the languages that you could speak. On another one, list all the musical instruments you could speak. Put a little mark next to all the ones you visited that you can speak or that you have learned, and you will realize just how much of a tiny scratch you've made on living and being alive. And so that drives me all the time. People say, you're always very busy, you're always doing things. Up until recently, that's very changed. But that's why, because you can. So why wouldn't you?
I think my light bulb moment came about 20 years ago when I went on a business course, and there was this marketing guy called Dan Kennedy. And he said to me, the average person lives to 77. Take away the age you are now and really think about the time that you've got left. And I have a little positivity song. And if I'm ever down, it goes like this. I love life and life loves me. I have so much positivity. Can you tell I'm an entertainer?
There's a similar thing you can do, which is in summers, which is even more grueling. How many summers have you got left on average? And that's really, that hits you.
That makes you think.
That really hits you.
That really does.
Because we skip through life, like, people think we get to do it all again, or we just don't think about it. And it drives me nuts because I've seen both sides of that. I've seen people drive to work and they never come back. And I've seen my friends, one of my best friends died in the night, 22, just didn't wake up. And so it changes you. And anybody who's had this will get more fun tonight, I promise. God, more drinks, please. But if anyone's had a chronic diagnosis or cancer diagnosis, or you've lost somebody, you can tell those people because they look at life differently and they do things differently with life. So that's my driver,
I lost someone 3 weeks ago to bowel cancer, 47.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so yes, and breathe. Okay, so number 2. There's quite a few. You've recently stepped away from a fast-paced life to embrace something slower and more intentional. What was the emotional turning point that led to that shift, Jez? We'd like to know.
How honest do you want this to be?
Raw.
I mean, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I made £1 million. I built a business to £1 million, and through misplaced trust and being taken advantage of, lost everything this year. And so I moved back from America. I sold my house in America. It was the only asset I had left because I'd been propping up the business in the UK and in the US with my personal funds, and they ran out. And then by the time I'd sold the house and paid everything, I have nothing left. And when you've got nothing, I was selling personal possessions in my house to pay bills in America. I had a watch collection. I always loved watches and collected watches. And it was really funny, is this watch, I used to work for Disney, and this is $20, and the strap was £8 on Amazon. I get more people commenting on this than I did on any of the Cartier watches or anything else. And that in itself was really like a light bulb moment. I thought, okay. So that was the pivotal moment. What was the question? I got too carried away with what was the point of what I'm supposed to be saying.
You've recently stepped away from a fast-paced life to embrace something slower. Emotional turning
That was the emotional turning point, was you lose everything. And so if you lose everything, you've got sort of several choices, right? And one of those choices was, I can not forgive the people that put me in this position. I can't. But I can have compassion for them, and that releases me of all of that. And either I cry myself to sleep every night and think of the life I did have and dream of, oh, wasn't it great when I had this, or it's nuts, you know. I mean, my consulting fees were, I couldn't care less now. My consulting fees were like 10 grand. Somebody's offered me to do something. They said, oh, you know, we haven't got much money. Would you come and do it for £150? And I think, oh, £150. I haven't got £150. It changes everything about life. But it's funny how we get so blinded by that. I was too busy chasing this notion of, oh, you know, can we build to 850? And if we get 850, why don't we build to 1 million? Why don't we stretch at 1.6? And I was just obsessed with that and not living here. So it was a real emotional turning point when I realized that actually I hadn't been looking at life. I hadn't been living life for the last 10 years. I'd been chasing money and chasing nonsense, utter nonsense.
But it goes back to the roller coaster ride of business. I think we've all been there, me included. I think about 2 months ago, the Crash Club put on an event, the One Club put on an event called the Crash Club, where business owners literally told their stories of, you know, defeat, failure, but then it was how we all had that bounceability factor to come back. And I was talking to everybody about my franchising story, because everybody seems to think that franchising is the way to make money and that's your pension. Well, it wasn't for me. £150,000 investment, and the same as you. Yeah. I was teaching classes to literally keep paying for things, and decided I didn't want a franchise. So yes,
but we do it because we're the dreamers.
Yeah.
We do it because we're the risk takers. Yeah. We do it because we're the people that create that kind of chutzpah, the grit in life, right? And we need to keep doing it. Would I do it again? No, not the way I did it before. But I am so grateful for this last year. I have so much. I've learned so much. I will never ever let go of as much of the business as I did. And that's one of the reasons that those mistakes happened, is I trusted other people to show up in the same way that I would. But they couldn't care less, could they? They don't care that they walked away with 50 grand from a marketing company that didn't work out, you know. And people close to me were calling me out on it and saying, I don't think this is right. It doesn't feel right. And I said, no, we have to trust them. That's the way it happens. You know, they know what they're doing. So you can choose what you take from it. And I think that's really important, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners and dreamers. And I use that in an endearing term, not a patronizing term, right? I love the fact that if you look in this room, at some point, everything in this room never existed. It wasn't even a thought. And somebody thought, oh, what like a thing that you could sit on, and we could call it a chair, and like a rug and a floor. And I love that. You can walk into every room and think, gosh, somebody is responsible for thinking of every single thing in this room. They dreamt it, right?
It's very quirky. I love it.
Yeah, they were probably on acid in this room, but it was, you know, nonetheless they thought of it.
I was just thinking, Jez, I'm the risk taker in my family. My poor husband. I'm glad that I didn't marry a risk taker, because we'd have nothing. But that's another story. Okay, so let's talk about what have you discovered about yourself since embracing slow living on the farm? Tell us about the farm. I'm intrigued.
I'm not on the farm anymore. So in 2016, I accidentally bought a farm, a decommissioned farm.
As you do.
As a sort of a long story, the person I was with at the time, we had a criteria for moving house, sort of up, the property ladder thing, and then property ladder's nonsense, doesn't exist anymore, but so we were going to go to a slightly bigger house, had this criteria, had to be 20 minutes away from where we were. An hour later, I'm driving to this thing, and I ring back, and I say, I'm still in the car. It is not 20 minutes. It doesn't fulfill the criteria, but I'm 15 minutes away I'm going. I grew up on a farm. I get to this farm, and I fall in love with it. And I created the world's first certified carbon neutral honey farm, rearing and reintroducing native British honeybees. We made it organic. We won tons of awards. And then I had a cancer scare. And we were being asked, people were approaching me to buy the business because we had honey that we were selling into restaurants here in London, Michelin-star restaurants, and celebrities and various sort of high society families. But I didn't intend to do that. It was just really good honey, of which I can take no. Oh, sorry, I did that. Sorry, of which I can take no credit for because it's the bees that make the honey. People used to say to me, "Oh, I love your honey," and I'm like, "Not really my honey, but I just put a label on it. But thanks, I'll take your money." And they said, would you be interested in selling the business? But it just came at the point of a cancer scare. So I sold the business and was left on a farm rattling around. But the slow living thing has come from since this, big change in life this year. I thought, well, I mean, I've done 1 million miles flying for the last 22 years all over the world as a speaker and author talking about the books. And in the last 8 months, I developed a fear of flying. Like I fly that much. I just hate it now. I just cannot stand flying. And also, if you're in America, all you hear is plane crash, helicopter crash, plane crash, helicopter crash. It sort of sits in the back of your brain. You think, I think I might walk. So I decided that there had to be an alternative. And the alternative was sort of forced on me. Because if you haven't got anything, then you can't do anything very quickly. So I very lent heavily into my Buddhist practice this year to meditate and reflect and get me out of some dark spots. And it was a very life-changing moment when you realize that you don't have to live the life the way everybody tells you you've been living it, or the way you have been all the time, because you've been doing it without any conscious effort. You've just been, living it. So the idea of slowing down a bit. And then I thought, well, if I've had to simplify my life by design, by getting rid of everything, if you didn't have to lose everything, what could you do to simplify your life, to live a simpler life? Because I hear all the time people saying, oh, I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so overworked and I've got so much to do and running all the time and cancelling appointments. And I think, well, then you need a simpler life, right? So that was the reason that I thought, oh, there must be a way that I can live a slower and simpler life and embrace what nature gives you and cut out some of the stuff that is being thrown at us all the time by, commercialization. You realise we're just buying stuff for the sake of it.
That's why you look so well. You've slowed down.
I'm not sure, but perhaps. Yes, sleepy.
So looking back, what advice would you give your younger self starting out in media?
Oh, in media specifically? Yes. Don't leave. Because I left kids telly and thought, I'm done with this. But the problem is, as soon as you leave any job, really, people just move on without you. And getting back in is like, oh, you have to get to the back of the queue now. There's tons of people that have come in ahead of you. So don't leave would be stick with it. But actually, the biggest piece of advice, it goes for anything, would be learn to know yourself and just be yourself. Because authenticity is the thing that we want from people, right? And particularly on telly, you've seen that, like with actors. You can sort of tell when an actor's acting. Yeah. And I hate that. You're like, oh, you're acting. But when I believe it, I'm like, oh my God, he just cut their head off. It's like, oh no, wait, it's a film. And that's the bit when you get pulled in because of it being authentic. Yeah.
It's a bit like me when I hire staff. I know which ones are in it for the passion and which ones are in it for the money.
Yes.
And children either like you or they don't.
Yes, it is true. Yeah, they're the best critic, as are chickens.
Okay, so let's go on to talking about behaviour, culture and leadership, shall we? So, Jez, in your experience working with organisations, what behaviour patterns do even the best leaders tend to overlook?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Best behaviour patterns that even the best leaders overlook, I would say consistency. So a lot of people just look for the end goal. Did you or did you not show up? And you don't necessarily count the number of times that people aren't showing up or are failing. You're just looking for the times when it's going right. So I think that.
Yeah.
I also think, gosh, that's a really difficult question. Behavior patterns, even the best leaders overlook.
Yep.
I've coached leaders for almost 20 years. That is a very good question. Oh, here's one.
Yeah.
Almost all leaders are super focused. It doesn't matter whether you're leading 2 people or 9 people or 400 people. They're super focused on their role, and almost, I know we're going to touch on this because you said about it, their sort of imposter syndrome to a degree. And what they don't see is the way other people are failing to show up. So they don't look at the people in your charge. It's their imposter syndrome that you've got to nurture as well. It's their, desires or things that they're not being able to fulfill. I would say that's probably a big one. Yeah.
We'll go on to imposter syndrome later, because I think we might have a question for the audience on that one. Okay, how about this one? How can founders intentionally build a culture from day one that supports both performance and well-being?
Oh, joyful. Forget about performance. It's true. If you're obsessed with performance, you can't nurture statistics. You nurture people because we are sentient human beings. We're driven, whether you're super focused on numbers or not, we are led by our heart. We're an emotional species. You forget about performance. You have to nurture a culture that is focused on people being happy, sharing culture. I used to say this flippantly to leaders that I would coach or workshop with. What you're aiming for is for people to be as happy as they are coming into work on a Monday morning as they are leaving on a Friday afternoon. That, like, if you can set that benchmark, you're home and dry. And there are ways that you can do that are super easy from day one. The first thing is to be as transparent as possible. Like, give them more information. Leaders have this bizarre complex where they feel that they need to keep information to themselves. But there's loads more. If you're in trouble or you're having difficulty or there's, I don't know, issues you've got with supply chain, share it with everybody. Bring them as close as possible, because then everybody cares. You know that old adage, no one cares about your business as much as you do? Well, get the people in your charge to care about your business as much as you do. And you can only do that by bringing them closer. They don't have to make decisions. They don't have to hold the money. It's none of that. But I think that if you've got a culture where people care, you don't have to worry about performance. Because the secret to leadership is getting other people to want to do something better. It's not a secret. It's not a big, but we get obsessed with the performance bit and forget that there's a human there that you've got to try and nurture.
Well, I just wanted to tell everybody, I don't know whether you know, but I also have another role called the Workplace and Conference Energizer. So I was asked to go into an insurance office, and my only brief was it's National Wellbeing Day or something like that, mental health awareness, and get them moving. So I rocked up with my trolley, with my pom-poms, with my maracas, and we performed the warm-up song, got them all moving. And honestly, first of all, they're thinking, what are we doing? But then when you give an adult a prop, they're more likely to move in and shake the maracas, and they came out. Honestly, my testimonials were brilliant, and so keep your staff happy.
Yes.
That's what I would say as a leader, and then just bring in these fun experiences. So yes, that's what I do. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, so how about this, Jez? What's one practical behavioural shift that has the biggest impact on team performance, apart from me and going in and energizing?
Apart from you. Oh, okay. That's another good question. What are you asking?
What's one practical behavioural shift that has the biggest impact on team performance?
I would say language. So that's technically not behavioural, but language drives behaviour, so I'm allowed it. The language that we use influences how we think, feel, and behave. Think about I hate you and I love you, right? They could have gone anywhere. They just happened to land at you, and I'm sorry about that. It's the same number of words, same number of letters, same Scrabble score if you're interested, but very different emotional resonance. And equally, you say to people who say to me, "Oh, I'm stupid. Don't ask me. I'm dumb. I'm thick. Don't ask me. I'm stupid." And the more you tell yourself that you're dumb and you can't do something, you're stupid, the less you're likely to try. Other people surpass your intelligence. Same thing with I'm fat. I see this so many times with people with poor self-esteem, and they will say, oh, Big Sue, oh, look at me, I'm Big Sue, and I'm fat, and so then because of your low self-confidence, you eat comforting foods, which tend to be high in sugar and fat content, so therefore you put on weight. I mean, years ago, it's not just Buddha, lots of people have said it, what you think you become. It's so powerful. You can think yourself out of anything. But I would say language, get people to use the right language, the way they talk about themselves, the organization, the culture, each other. Yeah.
That's really interesting because I'm developing a new website and I have a copywriter that I work with, and even she was still not getting my value and my credibility. And I got approached by a guy on LinkedIn, and he said, Amanda, I'm a messaging expert and I'm going to give you a free demo. And I knew he would rip my website apart because it needed changing. But honestly, he just really got me to think about, what are the children feeling whilst they're in the class? How do they feel when they leave? And it was all about the emotions, that your business gives to people. And so language and messaging, yeah, I like that, thank you. I'm learning tonight.
I think the worst thing that you can do, carry on with what you're doing, but I think the worst thing that you can do is ask somebody else to write your brand. But we find it difficult because you're not a copywriter or you're not a writer, and you might say, well, that's easy because you're a writer, but it's the worst thing you can do. You can get other people to help you form the sentences well, but in the same vein that no one cares about your business as much as you do, no one knows about it, and it's got to come from the heart. So I've seen that. Somebody asked me this the other day about how many brands we'd built. It's a lot. I mean, it'd be over 20, I suppose. And I just think it's the worst mistake. But I've done it. I've made that mistake. You know what you're doing.
It's funny because he's giving me all this advice, but I'm then going back to him and saying, well, actually, so we're working together on it, and it's
we're
really
working together
interesting.
On it.
Yeah. Okay, so Jez, can you share?
You can tell you're married.
Yeah. Can you share? My poor husband. Can you share a moment where a leader you coached had a major mindset breakthrough, and what triggered it?
I have to think about what I can say. So I coached the CEO of a large national chain that you would all recognize, and I'm thinking very carefully so I don't breach anything and you don't identify them. And they had a huge salary that afforded them, they collected luxury cars, and they had multiple garages in this. I went to the house once, big gated thing. It was a beautiful, beautiful building. And their spouse, I'm so trying not to, their spouse, they're so far gender neutral, right? Yeah, great. Their spouse was having an affair that they were aware of. That was one of the things we were talking about in our coaching session. What I find with coaching, business coaching, is that there's not really any one topic. It's just what you rock up with. And people will often say, oh, I haven't bought anything. I'm not thinking about what I need to, I haven't brought anything to this session. I'm not really sure. And those are normally the best sessions. And their daughter had sort of shunned them and said, well, I hate all this lifestyle. I'm going to go and be a hippie, and I just want to, be in the trees. And that's what she did, and lived a gorgeous life. And their son had a very serious drug problem and had shunned them. And there was a moment, a sort of breakthrough moment, where they realized that the accolades and the title and the career ladder suddenly didn't matter. Because if you looked around them, their exact words were, my life is a car crash. And what they meant was, all they'd worked for was to provide for their family, constantly at work and building and more money and more money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. You can have and want to earn as much money as you want. There's a kind of caveat to that, which I'll come to probably. But there was that moment where they self-realized, actually, I'm chasing the wrong thing, and perhaps happiness or contentment is a better thing to chase, because we will never have enough money but you can achieve a point where you are at your most happy or your most content.
I love Michelle Obama's quote, which is, success is not about how much money you make, it's about the lives that you change.
Yes, that's lovely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, can I just touch on my light bulb moment? I have a mentor called Sammy Blindell, and for many, many years, I was thinking, what do I do? It's singing, it's dancing, it's educating these children with props, it's fun, it's fitness, but she said to me, okay, if you were to sum all that up in one word, and I wrecked my brain. I was thinking, right, I'm the children's champion. Is it champion? And then she went, no. She said, because then look at the opposite word. So the opposite word to champion is loser. I definitely didn't think I was a loser. Anyway, cut a long story short, we come up with the word active. So the opposite to active is inactive. So she said, reverse that. You solve inactivity for preschoolers. And that was my light bulb moment.
Yes, it's very nice. So often we're not really sure what we're doing, are we?
It's
nice.
just getting that clarity.
Sure.
So yes, that was mine. So let's go on to imposter syndrome and self-doubt, shall we?
Shall we?
So you've spoken and written about imposter syndrome. What have you learned about your own relationship with self-doubt?
Gosh. It's just like unremunerated therapy. So I wrote about imposter syndrome I just wrote a book called Leading Change. I call it the lost art of leadership, because I realized after working with leaders for the best part of 20 years that we're focused on the wrong thing. People are obsessed with leadership principles and systems and processes and all that kind of jazz. And ultimately, leadership is about taking a person or group of people from where they are to where you need them to be. Right? It's about people, and we've way drifted away from that. I can see myself getting itchy 5 years ago in the role that I've been in, because it's not that people are just focused on the wrong things, and over the last 5 years I sort of reinvented a bit, and I think it's because I hadn't addressed the root cause, which is fundamentally I think I was sort of a bit burnt out and done with what I was talking about. So I interviewed Dr. Clancy, the psychologist who founded or came up with the principle of the idea of imposter syndrome. And this is such a difficult question to answer. The simple answer is it doesn't matter. We put so much onto the fact that we don't know, but what you don't know, and no one else cares. We think they care. John Cleese had a wonderful phrase when he was a teacher before he became a famous comedian, and his head teacher said, "Oh, you're going to teach geography or history or something." He said, "I know nothing about it." He said, "It's fine. You just need to be one page ahead." That's the same in life, isn't it?
We have a teacher in the room.
You just gotta be. If you're a supply teacher, you are literally only one page ahead. You read the page they're doing, and then they ask you a question that you don't know, and you say, "It's a very good question. We'll come back to that." Or, "Well, let's explore that as a class, shall we?" So you're frantically running down the index and filling in the gap. It's okay that we don't know everything. I used to collect old books. I had just over 3,000. I know that because we packed them up when I moved. 3,000 books as part of this big cleanse. I sat there looking at them one day and I thought, what's the point in 3,000 books? I don't know all of that information in those books. There are books on there I haven't touched for 5 years or more. I had Kenneth Williams' biography. I bought, I think, when I was about 19. So I'm 41. I've had it all the time, never read it. I only got about 4 years of his life in. And I thought, God, this is miserable and depressing. And I gave it away. I thought, that bloody book's followed me around about 7 moves, 2 countries. So it doesn't matter that you don't know. The secret to imposter syndrome is, just like most things, we overthink things as human beings. You just have to give in and show up authentically. The best responses I've ever got is when I say to people, and this is something I tell leaders all the time, you don't have to have all the answers. Just tell people, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure. What do you think we should do? What are your suggestions of how we should navigate that? And I mean, we sort of touched on this earlier. Maybe we get there. But if you look at a lot of anybody in the spotlight, look at an actor. I mean, the biggest people who are going to suffer imposter syndrome are an actor. They're not a teacher. They're not whatever the role is that they're playing. They're not a king. They're not Gandhi. They're not. But their role is to get you to believe that, right? And we do. And we do because they embody it and they feel 100% that they are that person. Well, that's us too when we're experiencing whatever it is that we feel imposter syndrome about. It's the bridge. Imposter syndrome is the gap between comfort zone, an existing comfort zone, and a new comfort zone. That's just that gap in the middle, and you float in it a bit. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master Buddhist monk, said it's like the mud. All lotuses have to have mud. And you have to spend some time in mud in order to get a lotus. The two can't exist without each other. So, yeah, that's my short. That's my short answer.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. I have imposter syndrome sometimes when I'm training staff in nurseries how to deliver physical development, and I'm there standing there thinking, well, academically wise, everybody knows more than me on the early years side, but then I've been teaching 5 classes a day for 35 years, so it's different experiences. So yes, thank you for that one. Okay, here we go. What patterns do you notice when high achievers face burnout or emotional blocks in leadership?
Irritability, inability to make clear decisions, diversion tactics, increase in spending, and other distraction behaviors. So increase in drinking, increase in partying, increases in an increase in distraction behaviors.
Anyone familiar with that?
I had a you don't have to admit it. I had when I had a big clear out of my house. This was before the wheels came off everything, but I went through the house. And I read a quote by William Morris, and I was doing some sort of deepening my own Buddhist practice at the time as well. And there's a William Morris quote, to paraphrase, it's something like, only have what is useful and what you love, or something, or what is beautiful, or something like that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if I went through my house and looked at literally every single thing. And you get fatigued quite quickly. You can only do sort of 10, 20 things at a time. And ask yourself, is this useful? And do I find it beautiful? Do I love it? Oh God, there was tons of shit. I was just like, no, no. And all of these big boxes that went to charity shops and I gave away to people. And this is, I realised, very personal, and you won't necessarily be able to relate to it at all, but I hope it triggers something. I would have things I would pick up in the house, and I could remember when I bought it. And I know when I bought it, it was because I was unhappy or because I was distracting myself from something, or I bought that thing and I thought, oh God, look, I bought that pencil. £150 for a pencil I spent once. Well, I say once, I bought 3. I bought one for one bag, one for another, one for my desk, right? But because mental, right? I know, some serious issues. Is anybody a therapist? But you will all have that. We've all got the T-shirt that we bought, or the ridiculous thing you sort of regret afterwards, because we're masking something.
Jez, I've got 100 black bags of clothes and shoes in my loft that I need
to
sort out.
I don't want them.
Okay, thank you. So Jez, how do you personally reset when you feel overwhelmed or unqualified, even with all your experience?
Yeah, but I had a patient, an old man who was dying, and I took him. Did I take him to hospital or was he at home? I can't remember. And he said to me, I'll never forget. He grabbed my hands and he looked at his beautiful steely blue eyes that are all watery, and he just said goodbye to his wife. And he grabbed my hands and he said to me, "Only do what you're good at, and it looks like you're good at everything you do." Isn't that lovely?
Oh, that's really
nice. So you'll never see me dance because I've got like 9 left feet.
Me too.
I've got a voice like a goose farting in the fog. I won't sing. So. I've done a lot, but I've done a lot because that's what life gives us the opportunity to do. And I'm about to, oh no, we'll do it at the end. I'm about to do something absolutely wild.
We like wild.
Yeah. And there are, charitable projects and other stuff that I do. So it's not that I've tons of experience. It's just the things that I do well because I've chosen to be good at them. I'm skirting around to what my other question was. Personally reset. That's right. Yeah, forgot the first bit. I've had meetings all day today, so I'm a little bit frazzled. I have rituals, and we should all have rituals. So my big unwinding ritual this is a recent thing I've done, is a Sunday. You can't get me on a Sunday. Sunday is the only day in the week where I don't schedule anything. I won't do you want to come to lunch at 12? No scheduling. If I remember, I'll get there on time, but I don't want the pressure that I have all the other days. So I get up when I want to get up, normally when my dog tells me that he's hungry. And I do what I want to do when I want to do it. If I don't have that luxury, so if it's not a Sunday, then my ritual is tea. So I'll make a cup of tea because that's a very slow process. You can breathe through it, and you can. This sounds ridiculous, like it's sort of. You'd never know I was doing it. It looks like you're making a cup of tea. You don't have to wear robes and stuff. You can if you want, but you don't have to. And light a candle and just have some time on my own. No screen time, no phone. Yeah. That's the reset we're all looking for, is to stop the distraction and the constant attention that we're being demanded. Our brain is being demanded. You just have to put your damn screen down and look out the window and watch trees. When we were at the farm, we were involved in some of the first pieces of research since the 70s. There was a pioneering piece of research in the 70s by a guy called, it was Robert Ulrich, Professor Ulrich, who determined the impact that nature had on human health, well-being and behavior. And he was the guy that, you may have heard this study, so he had, I think it was 20 patients who were recovering from abdominal surgery. 10 were on a ward where they could see trees and nature outside their window, and 10 were on a ward where the window faced a brick wall. All 10 of the patients facing a brick wall recovered slower and with complications after surgery. All 10 that could see nature recovered quicker and didn't have complications post-surgically. And so it was the first time anybody at any point had said, oh, there might be something in what nature does to us, right? So people talk about tree huggers and retreats and all that kind of stuff. It's because it works. So have you heard about the piece of research where if you have a pot plant, I've just come back from America and I always have to catch myself and go, no, not a pot plant, a desk plant. We call it in the UK a pot plant, right? But in America it's got a very different meaning. A house plant, a potted plant on your desk, it increases efficiency and happiness. And have you heard that, right? Yeah. So that was our piece of research, and then we passed that on to a university, I think of Nottingham and Birmingham, and they ran with it and it was in the papers and all the rest of it. So we did that on the farm. And wherever possible, I just don't do something. Don't stop filling your time with stuff is the thing I tell people to do. We're obsessed with being busy. Busy means success, I think, or success means busy. We're obsessed with, oh, God, I haven't got any time, I'm so busy. I tell you what, the opposite is joyful. I've never been more creative. I've never been more content. I've never been happier in my life. Which is odd, given what's happened. I don't even have a house anymore.
Well, we're going to get onto that. So let's go into your media, communication and connection, shall we? So how has your time on screen with the BBC and ITV shaped the way you connect with live audiences today?
I don't think it has, actually.
You're very confident, aren't you?
Yeah, but I suppose that has come from that. So all of the kids' TV was live. I don't think we did. Oh, we did a bit of pre-recorded stuff, but most of it was live. And Saturday Kitchen was pre-recorded. Was James Martin live? I can't remember. But I've done a lot of live telly and a lot of pre-recorded telly. Both of them are, intense. But it's hard. People don't realise how hard it is to talk to a camera because it gives you nothing back. Oh, of course we all know now because we did lockdown. We all know now. We all know how hard it is to be a TV presenter, right? To sort of transmit energy through a tiny screen. And what I noticed is, I didn't have any training to be a presenter, to be a speaker. I fell into it entirely accidentally. A friend of mine's dad was head of Lloyd's Bank, or was a senior director in Lloyd's Bank, and said, can you come in and do some training for us, because we send our guys to Disney and we pay them a ton of money. Why don't we get you in and pay you a lot less? So I said, why don't you get me in and pay me a little bit less? And I'll do the training, but I don't know if it's what I want to do. I'll do it, and if you like it, pay me. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And that's how my career started, that he liked it. He knew somebody that worked at Microsoft, and then it sort of snowballed. And I just built my own style authentically around me. And then when I started being a delegate at conferences, you could see that loads of speakers were kind of the same. It's almost like they came out of a school of how to speak, the same sort of rhythm, the same structure, the same... and there's not really any authenticity to it. Yeah. I've seen one speaker, I won't name them, about 6 times, and the whole thing is so curated, right down to the tear. It's like a bit where they cry, and like their arm goes like this, and I'm going, oh, it's an act. The whole thing's an act. Yeah. So I don't think telly has shaped anything I've done.
See, for me, I need those children physically in front of me. Going back
To sit down and shut up.
going back to lockdown, I'll never forget. I had to do entertain at a child's birthday party during lockdown. So I've got one family in Portugal, one family in Brazil, online together. No pressure, Amanda. I had this clapped out old laptop and system. I've got me headphones in, and the energy that I needed to tell them to go and get a broom and hold it, and then try and instruct them to do limbo underneath the. It was just so difficult.
It's draining. It's very, very draining.
Yeah. So no, I prefer children in front of me rather than online or
I think
TV.
do you all find that? Do you all prefer being in a room with people face to face rather than a? It's very hard because I don't live in town, and so I've just instructed. I have a very small team now, but very small team, one. And I said I don't think I want to do physical meetings anymore. Like, it's a big old schlep for me to get into town and back again and stuff, just to have a sort of non-directed, oh, this was nice. I'm like, that's all right if you're totting off back to Ealing, but I've got to like schlep back to the middle of nowhere. But it's difficult because it's much better like this, right?
Well, we are honoured to have you here this evening. Thank you.
Well.
So, Jez,
more.
what patterns do you notice when high achievers face burnout? Oh, no, hold on. We're on the wrong one. Hold on.
Same as I said before.
Yep, hold on. Here we go. What's the biggest difference between performing for a camera and showing up as a speaker in a room full of business leaders?
How deep is anybody interested in this answer? Do you want me to skip through it, or is there anybody? Do you have this? Does anybody here speak and want to speak in front of people? Is it worth me giving you a couple of tips, or no? Couldn't care less. Always tips.
Yes, please.
So,
the difference between performing for a camera and showing up as a speaker in a room.
So the thing with a camera is it's what you see isn't what everybody else sees, right? If you think on Zoom, it's the edges of your laptop or your screen is not the edge of your field of vision. It's here as well. Yeah. So if I'm looking at my phone, I've got to try and keep your attention here, and you've got all of this distraction, right? Same with TV. But live, I can do things, I can move and get you to keep looking at me. I used to do this thing where I used to touch my nose a lot because psychologically, as a behaviourist, I was thinking, oh, well, if I want like people to, I should gesture a lot and keep coming back to my nose, and then they'd be like, you know, every time they see me come here, they would be like, oh, he's doing something, oh. And I thought, that's really good. So I did that for a long time. I thought, guys, this is working really well. And I would sort of do this and, you know, and touch my nose. And then a client rang my agent and said, does Jez do drugs? Because he spent the whole 60 minutes touching his nose, and I was like, oh God, I didn't even think about like that was a thing. So don't do that is my first tip. But that's the challenge you've got, is when you're working to a camera, you're working quieter. The answer is to imagine that it's just one person tucked inside that camera that you're talking to. You have to draw them in really close. It's a much more intimate medium. Whereas here, I have to fill this space. I have to be much more animated, and I have to talk a little bit more animated. If you watch kids' television, watch children's TV, watch people like Amanda on TV, and you'll think, what are they on? What is all this? And the kids, and la la la. And it's because kids have got such short attention spans. You're constantly trying to trap them in, even though it's a screen.
Yeah.
But if you were to do that can you imagine the news being read? Like, where they go, oh, and it's so like this, and there's a thing, and oh, it's terrible, isn't it? Doesn't it look terrible? It would be just like naff and horrible. So that's the big difference, is it's camera is always intimacy, and live is always bigger. And from the people that I don't do it as a thing, but I've, you know, naturally have been asked to help people speak, is getting, you know, even doing that, people feel strange about it, you know, because they sort of want to be, you know, they think, oh gosh, that's very exposing. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
Thank you for that. So let's go on to your writing and creative expression. So Flip the Switch really struck a chord. What was the most personal insight in that book for you?
Oh, the end. You've already sort of touched on it. A friend of mine was a coach, or is a coach, Terry Gormley, and it's not his, but he did the same thing. You know, what's your age now? Write it down on a piece of paper, divide it by 12. That's your age in months. and there is an average, by the World Health Organization, there's an average life expectancy for women and an average life expectancy for men. Subtract your months from those months, and that's on average the number of months you got left. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I care about the people that I've lost as well. That was the biggest insight for me, was what are we doing? What are we doing with the life that we've got? What are you doing now? And I would have clients pissing around on a phone talking to me about some nonsense about a target or something. You know what really drove me from my career? I spent 22 years, sometimes speaking, sometimes consulting, with some of the biggest brands in the world, and they all think their problem is unique, and it's not. I've kept books for the last 10 years. Every client I write notes, and I've kept all of those notebooks. I've got these 10 notebooks. It represents 1 year of the last 10 years. I don't know why I started keeping them, but it's nice to have. And I go through them at the end of the year to see whether there's trends. And the word unique comes up all the time, because they think this is so, and I think, gosh, someone needs to write a book or do a workshop series to just expose the myth that you are absolutely not unique in your problems, because you've got humans. And if there's humans in it, the problems and the challenges are going to be the same. But what was really difficult, Amanda, was I got to a point in my life where I couldn't stand on stage and speak to 1,000 people and tell them that their targets were more important to meet than their happiness or their well-being as a person, because it isn't, is it?
No.
It's when clients are saying to me, this is so common now, they would say, it's been a really hard year. It's been really difficult this year, really hard. I mean, last year was bad, but the team have done so well. Really, really struggling this year. Really, really pushed, but they've done so well. But they're feeling really drained. They really, really, really have struggled, and we are struggling a bit with But we just need them to keep going. We're going to increase the targets next year. We just want. And I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Will you be happy when they're broken? Is that what we're getting to? But then of course they don't care, because you break and I probably get some sickness leave or something, and there's a million people wanting your job. And that moment for me was, what are we doing?
See, an example of that for me, a lot of my friends, they keep saying, we've got to get our Instagram numbers up. And I think I've got about 5,500. And I say, why is it a numbers game? Do the children, the preschool children that I teach, do they really care how many numbers I've got on Instagram? So, yeah.
Then that's an interesting thing. In telly, I've been to so many meetings where people have wanted or been interested. Wanted sounds very pious. Been interested in me presenting a TV show years ago, and one of the first questions would be, how many Instagram followers do you have, or how many social media followers do you have?
It's crazy.
And I used to say, well, how many do you want me to have? Because if you give me an hour, I'll have those numbers. I can go and buy them. But if it's a numbers game, what you should be asking is, what's your engagement like on there? Exactly. It's incredible when you start looking at people that have got. Oh, here's a funny story. So there was a collaboration online. I saw somebody auctioning a piece of artwork, right? And it wasn't a particularly nice piece of artwork. It was okay. I wouldn't hang it myself, but it was all right. And it was a collaboration between two guys called Very Gay Paint in the States. They've been on TV and stuff. They became very famous in lockdown. They've got like 80,000 followers. And then this company on the west coast of the States, they have like 100,000 followers. So the 180,000 followers, and they're auctioning this thing off for the Turkish earthquakes, right? I'm not laughing at Turkish earthquakes, I'm laughing at what's coming next. And I thought, oh, guys, it's a wonderful idea. So they said, starting bid, $1,500. And I'm like, there's 180,000 people on this thing. I'm thinking, well, what a lovely idea. I put $2,000. Good luck. Have a great time. 6 weeks later, I get an email saying, "Congratulations, Jez, you've won that piece of artwork." I'm like, I don't want that piece of artwork. How has nobody else bid more money on it? You've got 180,000 people. And I looked on the post, and there were like 6 likes and about 9 comments. And I thought, why don't you choose some of these flamey emojis? They love it. Give it to them. So I had to buy this bloody piece of artwork for $2,000. And I said, well, I'm just about to move to America. Can you wait, and then I'll get it shipped over there? And they said, yeah, we can do that for $300, because it was on the West Coast and I lived on the East Coast. And I left it there because no bugger will buy it. So I realized I can't even sell it for $900. I should have known then. I was making risky choices in my life.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? Oh, you've written for both adults and children. How do you shift gears creatively between those audiences?
The kids' books were accidents. I wrote 2 stories for my goddaughter and my goddaughter's mum. Somehow they got passed around school, and people were asking, "Oh, we want you to." They're in rhyming couplets, and they were written in a way that if you had autism, that they would make sense. The font was in a way that if you had attention deficit disorder or slow learning processing, that you would be able to read them. And I always liked the Hairy McClary, the little scrappy dog one. So they were done in that same rhyming style. And they were based on my dog. So one's called Zooster McFlooster and the Very Big Sneeze, because I had a Labrador at the time and he used to sneeze. It was so funny all the time. He couldn't do small sneezes. And then I had another Labrador who used to steal socks. So the other book is called The Sock Thief. They're just about to come out again, actually, because they're out of print. What was fascinating for me is you just change one word, because you think, oh, kids won't understand that word. You change one word and the whole sentence changes. You've got to try and work out. It was much more difficult writing for kids than it was the adult books. I don't write adult books, but
Yeah.
I'm like the Jilly Cooper of the behaviour world. Whip them into submission.
Okay, so this is a good one. Has your slower lifestyle, changed your writing process or voice?
Yeah. Yes. I'm writing another book now. I suspect will be out next year. Depends when the publisher. Yes. Has changed my style. Can anybody relate? Sometimes I think it's just me. Can anybody relate to this? When it feels like you're pushing all the time. Like there's so much to do, and there's so much you want to do. It feels like you're kind of chasing all the time. You're like trying to get loads done. Is that right? I think it's an entrepreneurial thing, right? You've just got tons of ideas and you're trying to action them and like that. That has gone. Like that, gone. It doesn't exist anymore. My God, it's freeing. And you know what I found? You don't need it. It doesn't help you. It makes you more stressed. It increases the likely chances you're comparing to somebody else's chapter 25 when you're only on chapter 1. You don't get anything done well, because you're trying to do 9 things at once. And so I revolutionized the diary and calendar setup and the way that I tasked and managed jobs and my time. And my God, I wish I'd done it 20 years ago. I'd be a lot happier. I'm getting really emotional. I'd be a lot happier. But it has changed my writing style, because I think I am now writing from a place of, even before I was writing things I knew that I told people. Now I'm writing something I've been through and feel and know is real and works. Some of the stuff in Flip the Switch I've never done. I know it will work because I've done it with other people, but I haven't been through it.
Fazana, do I need to take a leaf out of Jez's book and slow down? Yes, Fazana's always telling me to slow
Pause
down.
button, yeah.
All right, let's talk about legacy, vision and growth.
Okay.
Jez, you've built an incredibly diverse and values-driven career. What does success look like for you now? Has that changed?
Yes, it has changed. Success was numbers before, because that's the right thing, right? You're growing a business. How do you quantify that the business is a success? Well, it's numbers. It has to be numbers. It's not. I'm not being flippant. What other metric is there to quantify, particularly if you've got investment? So yeah, completely changed. I think we touched on all that, haven't we?
Yeah,
It's
we
very
did.
different. It is very much now. Success is whether or not you have the things, knowledge of and control of the things that really matter.
But if you ask that question to every single person in that room, I bet it'll be different.
Oh,
every
success
time,
is
yeah.
subjective,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really is.
But
Such a great question.
The better question, forgive me for whoever wrote the
Yes.
questions. The better question is
How do you
not
know I
about. It's not about. It's not about how do you measure success. I think it's how do you measure happiness.
Yeah, I agree.
Because psychologically speaking, we may not have time to do this, but if you ask anybody why they do what they do, the root cause of it all the time is happiness or contentment. And there is a psychosocial and also a geographic dynamic there with cultures, because some cultures don't pursue happiness and in fact don't value happiness, but they do value contentment. And some cultures actually value grief and arguments are more important than happiness. But I think broadly we can say that most people are doing what they do because they're wanting to get to a point of happiness, even if you think, no, what I'm doing is I want to provide for my family. Or I want to make sure my daughter's okay. Why? Well, because when your daughter's okay, you're happy. It's always happiness it comes to. You just have to push enough and you realize that that's the root cause. And so I think we're happy, or we pretend that we're happy, but I don't ever think there are fundamental questions as human beings that we don't ask ourselves and we don't cover. I did a project about 5 years ago. We made a short film about what it means to be human, and I would ask people, what does it mean to be human? And nobody could tell me. I would have people say, oh, that's a really good question, or oh, that's I don't know, is it about this? Or and 3 people have different answers. And I think, how do you get to 40 or 50 or 30 and not know what it means to be alive, to be a human, right? Because you just never thought about it. Same thing with values. I wrote an article recently about every organization's got foundations or pillars or values, or and nobody knows what they are. I spent 20 years asking every audience, 30 people, 50 people, 5,000 people, put your hands up if your organization has a set of values, and all of the hands go up. Now keep your hand up if you know them off by heart. It's always less than 0.5%. And then I turn and I turn to them all and the CEO and I say, so what's the point? What's the point? Like, it's just marketing, isn't it? It's just a feature on a wall. But individuals, when you say to them, what are your values and what are your boundaries, you have to really scratch around. But we should know them like that.
I like asking business owners, what is your dream? Or startups, what is your dream? And some will just reel it off straight away, and others say, oh, I've never really thought about it. It's But
that's because we're incredibly adaptive as human beings. We're brilliantly resilient. You can we'll get through it. We'll adapt. We'll evolve. That's what we're really good at. But it holds us back because then we start chasing something, and we don't know why we're chasing it. And of course we adapt to it. And then when I ask people, that have seemingly got everything, are you happy?
I love the word resilient. I'm writing a book next year. It's going to be called Resilience: The Will to Carry On. Because I've been through those roller coaster rides and ups and downs. So, yes.
You could call it
Watch this
Resilience, Carry On Will.
Okay, our final question. You got through it, Jez.
Well done,
Are you
everybody.
ready for the finale question?
On, doesn't it?
If a leader or founder is listening to this conversation today,
I doubt it by now,
which I'm sure they will, what's one invitation or challenge you'd like to leave them with? Boom.
My word. I think the challenge I would give any we have covered a lot, haven't we? That's quite a diverse set of questions. I think the challenge I would give any leader is I don't know how to articulate this. Most leaders don't have any understanding of what drives or reinforces the people in their charge.
Yes.
And if you don't know why it is that people in your charge get out of bed in the morning, or why they do what they do, or why they love it, then you're sunk already, because you can't influence or encourage their behavior. You can't reinforce a behavior. And I remember at a conference once, I forget when it was now, it was a big awards ceremony at the end. And this lady won Customer Service of the Year award. It was like a massive, big deal for this company, right? And this hamper, this chocolate hamper, a basket filled with chocolate, took 2 people to carry it on. It was like the size of a sort of toddler wrapped up in a basket. It was massive, all of this chocolate. And this lady who went up could not have looked more pissed off if she'd tried. Like, she had a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp. And I thought, wow, this woman has a story, and I need to know what that is. So at the end, I go up to her and I say, congratulations on your award. And if you don't mind me saying, you don't look thrilled to have won the award. And she said, I've been at this company almost 20 years, and I'm diabetic, and they all know.
Oh, no.
And similarly, a client knew I didn't drink and gave me a bottle of champagne and said, thanks, great job done today. And I think, well, that's not going to motivate me to want to do it anymore. You've got to know what it is that drives, and leaders don't spend enough time
involving their staff.
Yeah, they just don't spend enough time on the human aspect of leadership.
Maybe they need me to come and energize them.
Perhaps they need your maracas, Amanda. Yes, maybe that is what they need.
Well, Jez, I think you need another cup of tea.
I do. Is there a Q&A or not?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just get into that, Jez.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we would like to open up the room for questions, everyone.
It's a very disparate conversation this evening. There's a ton of stuff covered.
Yeah.
You can ask anything. Nothing's off the table. But if I've said something that didn't make any sense, or I've said something you think, oh, I wish you'd spoken more about that, now's probably the time. Because I'm going to have a dash off. I've got a dog to get back to, and I'm afraid he's a priority.
Afsar, you've always got a question.
No, I was going to leave it to the audience.
Oh, okay.
Hello, my love. Hi.
Hi, I'd like to ask from your perspectives, what's the best way to deal with the disagreements or arguments between the staff?
Ooh, good question.
The leader and the staff.
What's the best way to deal with arguments?
Compromise or
There's more.
employee-centric?
What's the
Or
best?
be more
There's more.
bossy?
What's the best way?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
be quiet.
you
What's the best
mentioned
way? Yes. What's the best way to deal with arguments or conflict between staff or between leaders and
yeah.
staff? Yeah. I always encourage people to get it. You just have to be human with stuff, right? So get it all out on the table. Let's like human to human. There's no power struggle here. What are all the issues? Let's write them all down. And you have to try and encourage a culture where that's okay to do that. A lot of leaders, I think, have this strange power struggle where they feel they need to have all the answers, know all the answers, be in control. The best leaders I've ever worked with are the ones that say, I'm not sure what to do here. What do you all feel might be a good idea? Someone's got to make the ultimate decision, and that's going to be me because I'm the leader. But let's kind of brainstorm this together. Suddenly you get people that have much deeper buy-in as well, and they're much more likely to overperform. So you know, get all the issues out, all of them. And for every single one, say, okay, so, but what else? Because there is a strange anomaly in therapy. I studied psychotherapy for a little while. I didn't practice. I was just interested in it. Where people bring their second worst problem to therapy. Because they think, oh gosh, that's a really big one. I don't want to deal with that one. I'll go with the second worst one, right? And invariably you end up dealing with the first. Same with coaching as well. Say, so what would you like to get out of this session? And it'll be some perfunctory thing. And I think, oh, this is going to get good because there's something better under there. And so with everything that somebody thinks is an issue, you just ask, okay, but what else? Let's build this out. You know, there's some other, and there's that system, and that other thing annoys me about it. And great, let's get it all down. And then together you work through it. And you say, well, look, and it might be, look, I don't like Colin and Colin doesn't like Yin, right? Okay, so we've got Colin and Yin, they don't like each other. So you say, okay, well, Colin has to stay here because he's the best person at his job, and Yin has to stay here because she's the best person at her job. So that's that. So now how do we meet in the middle? I'm not a big fan of compromise ever, because whenever you, particularly in relationships, compromise is a very toxic and dangerous thing to do psychologically, because it means that at least one person on that party is missing out on something. The secret is not to compromise, it's to meet in the middle somewhere without compromising. And it's different. There's a nuance there that's different. So yeah, you get empty the toy box out, all of the shit. That's what I want. I want, you know, just literally empty it all out on the floor. Some of the balls are going to be spiky and horrible to pick up, but we've got to pick them up because they've got to go back in. What can we do to round off the spikes a little bit, you know, smooth things out? It's the only way. But people approach things in such a way that they feel like they have to kind of pussyfoot around things, but it never works out as well. Yeah, that would be my aggressively manage it.
Love that answer. Oh yeah, would you like?
Hey, man.
So I personally I like to lead by example.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I'm doing something, I'd like to get in the mix and just get in, do it, show them that I'm there to support them as well, team, staff. But there comes a moment where sometimes they kind of then expect you to do it all. So how do you find that balance?
That's a good question. So
Great question.
Yes. So the question was, I like to lead by example, which means getting in and getting my hands dirty, rolling up my sleeves and getting in there. But then sometimes the people in my charge feel like, well, I'm going to just carry on doing it. So how do you develop that balance? At any point, do you set the rules and the boundaries for yourself? So is there I love to do this to make sure it's being done. I'm going to show you how I want it done, or I'm going to show you, you know, the way I would do it. Feel free for freedom of expression. Now it's over to you. You know, the clarity is all in the language. I see weird behaviors played out in leadership, and the detachment is one of the most difficult. It's like a glider. You know, at some point you've got to let it go and do its thing, right? And yeah, it'll either crash or it won't. But you wouldn't be flying it out there and letting go of it if you didn't think the pilot couldn't make it crash, right? So you let go at a point that you feel that is appropriate to let go. And I think getting your hands dirty and your sleeves rolled up is a great idea to a point. And I think the secret is to phase that out. By all means establish that you are, I can do this and I want to do this and I'm quite happy to do it. But I think the nuance is when someone's sick or they need a hand, that's when you go in and you do it as well. But other times you're not, because you have an established role as a leader. Does that make sense? I think it's finding the right time and the pitch for it.
Thank you, Jez. Like to go ahead?
Hi. Another question about balance. And you mentioned that maybe we over-index on success, and maybe we should be talking about happiness. And you also mentioned when we're trying to grow businesses, often it's very number focused,
Yes.
especially with investors and things like that. So you've got business leaders who've got their metrics and their sort of success metrics they're trying to hit. How, for business leaders, would you balance that with happiness when there is an element of success which they have to achieve?
Great question. So the question is, to paraphrase, how do you balance metric success and happiness? If happiness is a better measure of success, if that's what I'm saying, but there has to be a metric success, how do you balance the two? I think it depends on the audience I'm talking to. So all SME entrepreneurs in this room? Yeah? No? Yeah? It's quite important for the answer. So anybody employ more than 10 people in this room? Yeah, one. Okay. More than 20 people? It's not a competition. I'm trying to get a level. More than 50 people, because then this changes things. Okay, fine. So more than 50 is a little different, and you'll see why in a second. So I would say if you're an SME, it is your organisation, it's your business. You get to judge at what point metrics and business is compromising you as a human being and your life. And what I'm about to say sounds so overly simplistic, but that is humans. If you have a significant other, a person you love, and or maybe children, and you're not seeing them as often because you're having to be at your laptop or you're having to do stuff, then I would really, really question where that balance is. And if it's because, but we've got to, the machines, I'm feeding the machine, we've got to meet, I don't know, we've got to turn over 1.2 or 900,000 or 300,000 or whatever, then I would argue you're absolutely off. I'll come back to your point in a second, because Amanda said that she has a birthday coming up, and when she reaches that birthday, you want to go to Bali, did you say?
Well, yeah, I'm 55, I'll be 56.
Bless
so
you
when
for
I'm 60,
revealing.
my plan would be 3 months in Thailand, 3 months in Spain,
Right.
and buy something at the seaside.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And so I hear that a lot by people with the retirement trajectory. And you all know the retirement, there's like a horrific statistic about retirement, that by the time you retire at retirement age, there's a 76% chance that you'll develop a long-term chronic disease, and there's something like it's like a 5% chance that you'll die with every like 3 years or something like that. It's
Thanks,
insane.
Jez.
Yeah. So it's lovely meeting. So when you said it earlier on, this isn't a session for you, but I appreciate that. Why are you waiting till you're 60? Why, if that's what you want to do with your life, you have to do it now.
Yeah, but the children need me here still in the UK.
Yes, but the children will always need you. They'll need you when you're 75, they need you when you're 80. You'll never stop. You'll never stop. And so the false stories that we tell ourselves about what it is, where the right balance is. And so to your point, I think everybody would value just pressing pause for a moment and asking, what is the most important thing for me as a human being right now? And where are those? Because your 4-year-old's never going to be 4 again. And there are plenty of partners that have walked out. It's just happened to a colleague of mine who's a speaker who flies all over the world, and his wife said, screw this, great that you're chasing all the money and you're making all this money, but you're never here. And again, I keep coming back to money because it's metric. It's not about money. I'm not obsessed with that. It's just a metric that everybody can kind of relate to. However, in larger organizations, I think the balance is all of the focus, the amount of time that you focus on metrics, you focus the equal amount of time on well-being and happiness and the person-centered stuff. That is always, as a consultant, it's always off. That's where the problem is always.
And we can all look healthy like you.
You're obsessed with that. I don't think I look
Yes,
very healthy at all,
Fazana.
thank you. Hello.
Hello. You said you started again,
Mm.
and you're going around and rebuilding yourself.
Yes.
What do you find to be the challenges?
Oh, that's a lovely question. I'm starting again, rebuilding myself. What are the challenges? And the greatest challenge has been...
Honestly speaking.
Yes, honestly. I'll be honest, I've been very honest so far. The greatest challenge has been when you can go anywhere and do anything, it's overwhelming. It's almost too much. The only tie I've got is my dog, like a physical tie that prevents me from just jumping on a plane and saying to my partner, let's go and live in Thailand or something.
With me.
So yes, now, not in 5 years' time. So what do you do? Of all of the millions of different things you could do. And so what you do is you start to realize that actually the only compass you've got is your heart, is your passion, your dreams, your drive comes from inside, right? So what is the thing that guides me? What do I love doing? Where's that? And this is so weird. So I've always liked Japanese ceramics, teaware. Japanese teaware, there's some very rare Japanese potters and I collect some of their works. And so I've always had pottery, and my aunt is a very renowned porcelain repairer in the antiques world globally, and my dad did pottery when he was younger, and I'm about to retrain as a potter and open a ceramic studio with a very particular a charitable project that helps children with disabilities to be able to use their hands more. So they, in the act of being taught how to do pottery, get to do physiotherapy and use their hands, but obviously end up then with a creation that is a permanent example of them and an expression of them forever. Yeah, random, right? But if I draw a line under everything and somebody pushed me into a corner and put a gun to my head and said, what do you really want to do? And I had to pick something, I couldn't pick it. 6 months of feeling incredibly lost and thinking, what the hell am I doing? Like, what? So I'm great at speaking. I've done that for 22 years. I still love it, but I refuse to shoehorn a corporate agenda in anymore. So I now find myself talking about this story, which is why it's a bit rough around the edges. I'm sorry about that. It's a very sort of first time of working out how much people want to listen to and how much trauma they want. Maybe more tears. Yeah, and so after a little while, I just had this weird draw to do that. And people always ask me what the secret is. How do you know? How do you know now? Because we want the answer now, right? If you want a diet, you want the pill. You don't want to do like a 20-week course. You want it now. How can I be, like this Ozempic thing is nuts. It's nuts.
Oh, isn't it?
Eat less, move more.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Just got to be patient. But we're so impatient. And we're being encouraged to be impatient. As a behaviourist, watching society is really hard. If you watch, next time you're at a train station or you're commuting, save the temptation to look at your phone and do what you always do, right? And just watch everyone else. And they do this weird thing where they just flit about on their phone. Open one app, go to another one, open it, check another one, go back to the app they were at 3 seconds ago, check that, scroll down, reset it, check the messages, still nothing, go back. They're just constantly, it's like that the whole time. And I want to just grab them and say, just stop. You're missing all of this. And that time, this nonsense, you could have been talking to somebody that you loved. And that's my parting gift for you today. We're very, very bad at telling the people that we love how much we care for them. So I want you to go home this evening and your partner, if you have a loved one, if you live with them, forget about the fact they cut the carrots the wrong way around and they put stuff in the dishwasher the wrong way around, right? Because you know the right way and they don't. Just let it go, right? I want you to tell them, I want you to look them in the eyes and tell them how much you love them. Because we take them for granted, particularly if you've been in a relationship for a while. And if you've got children, just please go home, look them in the eyes, hold them, and tell them how proud of them you are and that you love them. Because you don't do it nearly enough.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we ought to give a big round of applause.